Hi guys, in this video I'm going to go over some gameplay tips on how to be a better player in Ring of Elysium. So, for those that haven't played it, Ring of Elysium is a free-to-play battle royale game made by Tencent, who incidentally also made PUBG Mobile, so it has a very similar feel to PUBG, while being slightly more arcadey. The game's around 4 or 5 gigabytes to download and runs well on pretty much any PC that's less than 5 years old, making it easily accessible to pretty much everyone. If you're interested in getting in and having a game, you can use my referral link in the description below and get yourself and me a few free skins. Let's start with some class choice. So to begin with, you need to decide what class you're going to play. There's 3 classes and they all have some pros and cons. However, generally most people seem to agree that the glider is the easiest to play. The glider is probably the most popular because it allows you to easily move around the map quickly and in relative safety. You can use it to get into and out of fights quickly, providing you've got good positioning, and it allows for quick runs at the helicopter in the endgame, again, if you've got good positioning. You can also shoot from the glider with a handgun or a submachine gun. The downside is you have a small inventory space, so you've got to be good at managing what you carry. You also need to have a good ledge to jump from to deploy the glider, so your spawn point should preferably be in the mountains. Being shot out of the air can happen fairly easily if someone sees you and they're a half-decent shot, so spatial awareness when you're flying is pretty important. The snowboard's generally been the second most used class, as it can be used on any terrain, and as such you can spawn pretty much anywhere in the map. It also has a larger inventory than the glider. The downside is it's slower to get around and you can't snowboard up steep hills. You also can't shoot while you're on the snowboard. The last of them is the rock climbing pack. This has historically been the worst pack. This is because you are limited to only being able to use zip lines where they're placed on the map, making you an easy target for someone waiting at the end of a line. You can also climb some very specific vertical rock faces. However, it's ultra slow and you can generally run around to the top faster, so I wouldn't ever advise doing this. Ziplines were also quite slow up until a recent patch that, I believe, has sped them up slightly and has also allowed the use of handguns and SMGs whilst ziplining. This makes them a better choice than they previously were. The faster zipline makes them a good choice for some spawn locations, as you can get to high places and shoot down on enemies as fast or faster than the hang glider, which was generally used in those situations. The upside is you have a large bag, and as such you can run any weapon choice you like, and you can carry a heap of health packs without running low on space. You also start with a shotgun, while the other 2 classes only start with a handgun. For spawning in, unlike other Battle Royale games where you have some form of drop-in from the sky and pray for the RNG gods to bless you with a gun right away and not too many people close by, in Ring of Elysium, the pre-game screen gets you to choose where you want to spawn. There's no skydiving in here, and you can also see where everyone else in the game is planning to spawn. This allows you to remove the RNG factor for the first few seconds. There is some element of mind games to the spawn process in duos or squads, as you can all spawn on the one space and look like one single player, or spread out and try to pressure other teams to spawn elsewhere. Where you spawn will also affect what kit you choose. The west side of the map and the north edge of the map are mountains, and they're pretty good for gliding off. The north, east, southeast and central part of the map are mostly flat and good for snowboards. The rock climber kit is fine anywhere that has easy access to a zipline, so pretty much all the large towns or high-end loot places. There are some places where loot is generally better, like Fort Tarfing, Diome Police Station and Herschel Academy. These places tend to have more people spawn in them, and the larger towns like Ring Mountain or Sigel Castle also have a lot of people that spawn in them, so if you're looking for fast action, these are good places to start. If you only want to have a couple others to fight with at the start, then the ski resort or the mine are pretty good. Generally, if you want to spawn alone, you can go to any of the smaller towns, and in the last 2 seconds, if there's a clear spot in one of the better loot places, you can jump in there and try and get some better loot. So weapon choice is a personal thing, and everyone will have the few guns they prefer. This is what works for me and for most of the other people that I've played with. You're going to want 1 submachine gun, 1 assault rifle, and 1 sniper rifle or DMR. This gives 1 close range that can be used on hang gliders and zip lines, 1 mid-range that can also fill in as a sniper if you've got a scope and you can change it into single fire mode, and 1 long range for those sweet long range kills and mid-range one-shot headshot type kills. The specific guns you choose should match your skill level, or what you feel you're most comfortable with. For example, I tend to go with the DMRs, like the G28 or the MK12 over a proper sniper rifle, as I tend to miss a lot of the single shot headshots at critical moments. But if you've got a strong aim game and you can hit those headshots most of the time, you may prefer the Mosin or the Remington 700. For SMGs, my preference is the Vector, as it has a very high fire rate for close range, but you might prefer the MP5 as its full auto is a little slower and easier to control. As I said, it's totally personal preference and your skill level that should decide what guns you go for. I will add, if you're playing the hang glider, and to a lesser extent the snowboard, you'll want to have your assault rifle and your sniper rifle use the same ammo type, or you'll run out of space and potentially run out of ammo for one of your guns at a critical time. So, my preferred setup for a glider is dependent on what I find most of at the start, but it's usually one of the two following setups. For 7.62 bullets, I go with a G28, an AK, and a Vector. If I can't find them, I might use a Mosin or a Groza or an MPX, or some variant of those. Or, if I'm going for 5.56, my preferred setup is the MK12, an M4, or Lovac, and a Vector. But, if I can't find them, I might end up with a Remington, and a FAMAS, and an MPX. There are a few guns you can only get from supply drops, and if they have the same bullet type that I'm currently running, I'll swap to these. The AUG's better than the M4. The M200's the best sniper in the game. It's worth having a third bullet type in your bag for the M200, and generally there's only 20 bullets in the drop anyway, so it's not going to make a huge difference to drop a couple of your other bullets. The other gun that you'll generally get out of these is the VKS, and as far as I'm concerned, it's trash. It has a massive bullet drop, and it doesn't seem to do anywhere near the damage the M200 does, and you have to run a third bullet type. I just never take it. I might take the bullets with me just so I can drop them somewhere up the road so that no one else can use the gun, but I would never take the gun. I also haven't talked about shotguns or handguns, as for me, apart from the first few seconds until I find something better, they're really not worth having. I also haven't talked about attachments for guns. Now, obviously having attachments is better than not having them. There's generally not more than one option for any slot, so you should load your weapon up with everything you can. For the slots that take more than one item, it's personal preference. I prefer a vertical grip over an angled grip, and for the muzzle, in this order I prefer a suppressor, then a flash hider, then a compensator. The flash in this game is super visible from very far away, so that's the main reason I put the compensator in the last spot. As a last point on attachments, if a slot is empty and the item you pick up can fit it, they automatically attach. This is great most of the time, but if you already picked up a red dot and then you get an 8 times or a 4 times, you may need to go in and swap them to the appropriate gun. Also, if you do decide to swap guns out with a new gun, you can drop the new gun directly onto the slot where your old gun was in, and it'll swap out all the attachments automatically and get rid of the old gun for you. In general, as you're moving from place to place on the map, you want to try and stay under cover. So you're going to go from cover to cover, so that you're not in an open area for any longer than you need to be. This makes you a target for people to shoot. If you're heading into the mountains area, you want to stay in the crevices and move up the mountains so you can't be seen from either side. Or if you're moving along the top of a mountain, don't run along the very, very top of the crest. Just move down to the side a little bit on either side so you don't become a silhouette for everyone on both sides. If you're planning to move a long distance and you decide to use a vehicle, it's best not to drive the vehicle straight into town. They're super noisy and it only takes 1 or 2 clips from an assault rifle to blow the car up. So stop a bit out of town and come in by foot for that last bit after checking for enemies whilst you're in cover. A side note to this is, if you're in a squad and you need cars, it's much better to take 2 cars than 1 if it's possible, so you split your team and then you're less likely to all die should you get ambushed. There'll be times when you're in a fight and the best choice is to leave midway, for whatever reason. The zone, the enemy has better position, they're better equipped, or simply they're better players than you, and you want to escape without dying. Having some idea of what the terrain is like around you is important. Things like, is there a cliff nearby to fly from, or a zipline that runs away from the enemy, or even just a crevice that you can move away from the enemy in. If you're looking for a win, it's sometimes better to run away and live to fight another day, as the saying goes. Each class plays quite differently in the way you should move around the map, so I'll break it down a bit for you. Gliders want to keep to the high ground where possible. This is a good place to be for any fight, regardless of what class you're playing, as when you're shooting down on someone, you can see a lot more of them than they can see of you. If they're below and behind some cover, the chances are you can still see part of them. However, if you're shooting up at them and they're behind cover, chances are you won't be able to see any of them, but they'll be able to see you. Being high also allows you to jump off an edge and fly away at a moment's notice if needed, or to fly around and flank the enemy and come from a different direction quickly while your teammates distract them. Snowboarders can also play the high ground in the same way that the gliders can, but their movement to flank is not quite as good. Or they can play in the cities and use houses as their fighting base, and still have better movement around the town than gliders. Mostly. You can glide from rooftop to rooftop as a glider, so there's a little bit of help there. Or the rock climbers, as they tend to have to run everywhere and only have specific places where they can zipline. Rock climbers can also play high ground, however it's kind of dependent on the zone allowing them to zipline into a good spot, where they're also able to zipline out of easily to the next zone. As the zones close in, rock climbers tend to play more to the cities. That being said, I very rarely play this class, so I don't really know the best tactics for it. So for combat, there's a few things you want to think about when taking a fight or not. The first is if you're very new to the game and still learning, or are you a bit of a veteran and you're already a pretty good aim and you're used to each gun. If you're new, there's 2 trains of thoughts, and they are, 1, you should take every opportunity to fight, as it teaches you much faster how to use each gun and how to aim, etc. The second way is to take your time, inch your way in and avoid as many fights as possible and try to get to the end and just hope to get a sneaky win. Honestly, most people go for the second option, but the first will make you a better player much faster, and once you're that better player, the wins will come. I'd say take all the fights you can when you're new. Hell, you should even drop into the hottest spots and hunt for fights while you're learning. It doesn't matter if you die a lot, at least you'll get used to fighting a lot, and then you'll become a better player. You can always take your time later and get the wins once you're better at aiming and playing in general. Let's assume you're past that true newbie stage and you're already comfortable with the guns and you're playing for wins and rankings. In this case, wins are more important than kills. So, unless it's the start of the game and you're clearing your spawn area, or you have someone close and it's a definite easy kill, or you're getting to the point in the last few zones where people are in your way, I generally don't take the fight. I'd rather avoid them. The two main exceptions to this rule are in the last zone and if you're a streamer. In the last zone, I try to kill as many people as possible, as fast as possible, as this clears the way for me to get to the helicopter. I won't take a fight if they're already fighting someone else because I can wait and let them kill each other and then finish off the last one pretty easily. But once the cold kicks in and you can see everyone's location, I wait for that first pulse to show where they are, and as soon as that disappears, I rush the closest one and push hard to try and get them before that next pulse. If you do that, you can often get enough shots on them before they realise you're there and kill them. This leaves less players to stop you from getting to the helicopter. The other exception to this is if you're a streamer. People don't like to watch someone camp for 30 minutes and maybe get a kill or three and then maybe get a win. They'd much rather see some action and hear some good commentary and maybe get a win. They'd rather see you kill a squad and then die to a second squad and start again and then see you slowly inch in and win a game. The wins only look good on your stats, and the viewers don't care about that. The action looks good to all of your potential viewers. So, as a streamer, you probably want to push for kills. One other point to note, and this is one of the best parts of Ring of Elysium, is that you can press Q, and wherever your crosshair is looking will be marked on the map for a few seconds, visible to you and your team. This makes pointing out enemies much easier than any other Battle Royale game I've played. It eliminates those issues of, oh, they're behind me, or they're up the hill to the west, or they're at 135, a bit off, near those trees, behind that rock. All these ways are a pain to try and find where the enemies are, and this fixes that problem 100%. So the endgame is the last zone after the storm starts. How you play this portion of the game depends a lot on your position compared to the helicopter, and how many people are alive, and how many meds you have. The storm gets progressively colder, making it harder and harder to heal through, so unless you have a lot of meds and a good hiding space near the heli, it's best not to try and out-heal other players. If you have a good high hiding space and a decent amount of meds and are close enough to the heli ladder even after the storm worsens, then you may want to camp and heal and then just pick people off that try to climb the heli. If you're short on meds and there is other fighting going on but not really close to the heli ladder, it's often possible just to quickly rush straight in at the start, jump straight up onto that ladder and climb in for a sneaky win. If the heli's at one end of the zone and you're near it and you're able to spot most of the other players left alive prior to the storm and they weren't that close to the heli, you can often rush then as well and also get a sneaky win. If you're in a squad, it can be good to try and sneak one player into the heli to ensure the win, while the rest of the team hunt players and cause a distraction so that guy can actually get into the heli. The last option, and this will be the most common in my opinion, is when you have some meds, but not a lot, and the storm comes and there's 3 to 10 people left alive, you should quickly start to hunt anyone close to you. When you kill someone in this time, you get what's called adrenaline rush, and you take no damage for a short while. It's long enough for you to heal and loot their meds and move on to the next target. It's often enough for you to keep killing and clear out the last few enemies and then climb the ladder and win. Alright guys, that's it for how to play and win in Ring of Elysium. I hope it helps you to be a better player. If you have any good tips and tricks and you want to add to why I'm wrong or right about all of what I've just spoken about, please comment below and help us all to become better. If you liked the video or if it's helped you in any way, please share, like and subscribe. And have an awesome day. Thanks guys.